Brad Snyder, welcome to CBSBaltimore.com. We're so thrilled you're here with us.
So thrilled.
We just did a dynamite coffee with, which we'll invite you to after this. Go
check
back a page or so and check out. We were just. First off, Brad has a book out called Fire in My Eyes. The story of an American warrior's journey from being blinded on the battlefield to gold medal victory. You took us on an incredible ride at the Paralympics, and we were just sitting here talking about your story. Look, you were a champion swimmer. Matter of fact, the gold medal is impressive, but I'll guarantee you somebody in Napa was going, yeah, that's impressive, but he beat Army.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a big moment for you.
It was. So, and frequently there's so many times that I get to tell my story, and even in a 45-minute keynote speech, I can't hit the whole thing. So I'm really excited that the book is out there, because there's a lot in the book, a lot of experiences that I had that I was able to put down on paper that I don't often get to in interviews like this or in speeches and things. So I'm glad that the full story is out there, and if you're interested, I encourage you to take a look. But yeah, I think it's interesting for me. I had basically two different careers: an able-bodied career as an athlete, then went into the Navy and served, and then now, I found myself as a para-athlete, and there's interesting parallels. My able-bodied career, I didn't win very many races. I was second a lot. I was a decent, state-ranked swimmer coming out of Florida. In my collegiate career, I won one race. One collegiate race my entire collegiate career, and it was a big one.
Yeah.
It was my freshman race in the 1,000 against Army, and it was such a cool experience. My first big race, the first moment that my team is depending on me in a heated battle. The pinnacle of our season is the Army-Navy meet up at West Point. From an outside lane, I hit the wall first, and my team went nuts. And it was just such a cool experience to be able to have contributed in that way. And obviously, I sought that for the next 3 years, and it kind of came up short. And so I left the sport of swimming thinking, what could I have accomplished, I guess, in 2006. And so it's been really cool to come back at the sport and enjoy the success that I've enjoyed the second go around, having thought that I would never come back to the sport.
What we were talking about, Lee, you and I, before we started rolling, because you may have heard us laughing when we came in. I was asking, we were talking about John Brinkus, Sports Science on ESPN, and how they analyze Michael Phelps' body.
He has everything.
He has everything going for him to move through the water. And you said that you think it's more important in your story. Because I was asking if anybody looked at your body, the length of your arms, the distance of your knee to your
compared
ankle.
everything.
You said your story is a story about spirit, and that anybody can do it.
Yeah, I think the major difference between Olympians and Paralympians is that Olympians definitely show us and inspire us in the way that what is the human body capable of. And you look at amazing athletes like Phelps or Usain Bolt or Katie Ledecky, and they're tall, they're long, and they've got these advantageous knee to ankle ratios and things like that. And sports science can go all crazy about that. But what I take pride in, and what I'm most proud about the Paralympic movement, is that we really show you what the human spirit's capable of. Every athlete is dealing with either they were born without limbs, or they were paralyzed at a young age, or in my case, suffered a battlefield injury and had to kind of readapt to life in a big way. And all of us are contending with those challenges. But getting into the Paralympic movement and then succeeding in the Paralympic movement shows you that no matter what, we will get through those things. And in many ways, I reject the notion that any level of success that I've achieved has anything to do with my physical makeup. I'm a little guy. I'm 5'9", 150 pounds. But I think that the success that I've been able to achieve has more to do with mindset. It has everything to do with learning that hard work pays off, and I want to honor my fallen comrades on the battlefield with my dedication to my sport and my way of life. And I think in doing that, I can relate to the community in a way that says, no matter what your challenges are, I believe with the right mindset and with the right core character components, there's nothing that you can't achieve as well. So my goal is to inspire the community as many ways as possible, and I think I don't want people to look at my story and say, well, I could never do that because I'm not him. My contention is, most people have everything that I have. I've just been able to succeed because of the right mindset.
Wow, that's inspiring.
Hopefully.
Really, it really, and here's what's hip about this. I think, and Lynn and I have talked about this on the air, that people are now really aware of the Paralympic Games and the level of athleticism.
Oh, for sure.
The level of competition, the level of dedication, and that we really have on this planet a month-long festival of sport called the Olympics. the entire umbrella.
thing.
Look, you're sitting there, you're wearing the USA, the Under Armour logo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're proud. We're proud of Under Armour.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you know, we're sitting there. The cover of this book, there's, you know, that swimming cap has become iconic now. That black cap, your name in block letters,
American flag.
American flag, boom. There's only a few people get to wear that.
Yeah, and you're one of them.
And I think it's just become a really, and I think the Paralympics are only going to grow. There was TV coverage this year. We were doing satellite shots
yes,
just like we did before.
absolutely.
You know, Olympics 1, if you will.
Yep.
Yep.
Would you explain? I'm going to hand you your medal back. Would you explain?
It's so cool.
Let me get the ribbon around. Explain the medal. And again, I'm going to take my mic off because if you didn't see it on the air, this is so
Yeah,
cool.
you want to see how it's
Go
different.
for it.
Yeah, so what's really neat about this medal, and something I like to tease the Olympians in that is mine's got Braille dots on it, so I think it's actually worth a little bit more because there's a little bit more gold there. But the designers at Rio 16 did a great job of incorporating what we call inclusive design. You know, the design of this medal incorporates design aspects for all folks. And visually impaired athletes like myself might be confused as to what medal is what, but these have a unique sound. So if you shake it, that sound is unique to all the Paralympic gold medals. That exact sound, there's 20 beads in a small chamber inside this medal that make that sound when you shake it. Now there's only 18 beads inside the silver medal and 16 beads inside the bronze medal, so the sound changes from medal to medal. So if you shook them side by side, you'd be able to tell which is which, and that's really cool.
So smart.
And you
Yeah,
know what?
very
That,
smart.
you know, I remember when we first held the Rio.
Helen brought hers in, the wrestler from Rockville.
Exactly. What do you think that weighs? 10 pounds?
It's heavy.
pounds, yeah.
It's
I
heavy.
mean, they're really heavy. I mean, you know, and
We need
years
to get a
ago,
discus athlete in here and see how much
And
exactly
ask
this
them what they
weighs.
think.
can you imagine?
I know.
I mean, Michael Phelps puts all of them around his neck. He's
At
getting-
one time.
He's getting ready to go to the orthopedic
That's
guy.
crazy.
His back's
Exactly.
going out.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you this. I'm going to take this from you again.
Sure thing.
What is, I'm going to wrap the ribbon up, we'll put it back on the cloth. What is next for you?
Yeah, what's up next?
That's a very difficult question to answer because I've been so focused in on Rio for so long. I think, you know, to succeed on an elite level like that, and back to what you were saying earlier a little bit was, you know, I'm glad that you said that the thing you noticed about para-athletes was the athleticism and the inspiring performances in the pool. There's been an interesting dialogue around the Paralympic realm where we kind of shy away from the word inspiration because we do want to show people what we're capable of, and we do want to show people or inspire the community to do things that they didn't think they were capable of, but we don't want to be inspiring merely because we're disabled. What I like about the Paralympic movement is that our disabilities are very transparent. You know, when I dive in and swim against the other 7 blind athletes, you don't really see blindness, you see swimming. You see 8 people going as hard as they can against each other to touch that wall first and win a gold medal. And those are the inspiring performances that we like to feature, not necessarily the fact that we're disabled athletes doing just being disabled, you know. So I appreciate that you saw that athleticism featured in the Paralympic movement.
You know, Tatiana McFadden,
She's amazing.
I mean, you want to talk about somebody who's ripped.
Yeah, and
Dude, she's ripped.
She got 6 medals this time around.
so what we like in there, it's not like, you know, she's fast for a wheelchair athlete or whatever. What we like is like if you got a dip bar out here and you just brought every person who's in the studio and said, let's see who can do the most dips. Tatiana McFadden would crush everyone.
everyone. Oh.
Pull-ups, dips, wheelchair racing. It's kind of like this mentality like she is the fastest wheelchair racer in the world, bar none, and by a significant margin. And what she does physically is incredibly impressive, and that's what we like to feature in the Paralympic movement, is that we are elite athletes in so many different ways. Yeah, we also have disabilities, but to us, our disabilities are transparent. It's really just like, are you a fencer or a wheelchair racer? You know, it's different niche athletics. We really like that on display.
Will you go to Tokyo?
I think so. You know,
Yeah.
what I was getting to is like it's really hard to answer that question now because I worked so hard towards Rio, and I had the opportunity to partner with Under Armour this season, and it's more than really nice jackets. You know, I got to work out at their performance center down in downtown Fed Hill. I worked with a trainer named Tony Ponton, who also trains NFL athletes. The training I was doing there was the hardest training I've ever done, and every day I went over there to work out. It was the hardest workout I've ever done. I left there on the verge of passing out every day.
Oh my gosh.
And so that level of work is like what I knew it would take to do the things I wanted to do. If you want to set a world record, you have to do things that no athlete has ever done before. You have to have that mentality every day. And I got to be honest, that mentality is exhausting.
I'm sure.
So, you know, it's really easy when they, you know, you're at the Rio Games, they're like, you want to go to Tokyo? And you're like,
yeah!
hell yeah! Like this crowd and the excitement and everything. But then you come back and you're like, 4 more years of working like that.
Training like that.
It's intimidating, but the answer is yes. Like, I have to sit down, I have to take some time off, I have to enjoy my family, I have to enjoy going to some O's games, hopefully they make the playoffs, you know, I have to enjoy going to the Ravens games, I have to enjoy being a part of this amazing community we're a part of, because for so long, I had my nose in the water, I had my nose in the weight room, I had my nose in my sleep and my recovery and my plan and all that sort of thing. You know, now I have to lift my gaze and remember what it's like to be a normal person, but I have to come back to the sport with a mission. You know, the last go around, this mission was to do something I had never done before, turn my 2 gold medals from London into 3, earn a gold or a world record. You know, like I had a mission, and a lot of my races turned out that way. Now I have to spend some time evaluating, like, what do I want to accomplish? What is my goal now? Is it another world record? Is it coming back as a triathlete? Is it just going to enjoy the experience? Or is it, you know, there's a whole myriad of things you can garner from the sport of swimming, and I have to make sure that I come back with a mission, that I have a plan, and I know what I'm going to try to accomplish in Tokyo. And I think, you know, it's easy to say, I think, yeah, I want to be there as a Tokyo athlete. I'm proud of the Paralympic movement. I really want to be a part of it. What do I want to accomplish? I'm not sure yet, but I know that I'll know when the time is right.
Okay.
Let's talk about baseball.
You just
Let's talk about baseball.
There's one thing that we all, that whether you have sight or not, that we share. When you walk out on a baseball field or the football stadium, you can feel the presence, that you're in a big facility.
Yeah.
So now you're standing out there. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Hand you that baseball. The first pitch is yours. Was that fun?
You did that.
Yeah, it's incredibly fun, and moreover, to add to the experience you just described, I mean, there is a sound to 37,000 people, right? That makes a certain sound, but 37,000 people who are paying immediate attention to you and what the announcer is saying. You know, I had the opportunity to share that experience with my teammate Mackenzie Cohen, who also came away with 3 gold medals and a silver. You know, to stand out there and listen to her accomplishments listed as a student at Loyola University here in the area. All of those people weren't just looking for the beer man or whatever. They were paying attention to those things, and when they applauded for her, and then when they applauded for me, it's 37,000 people here in the Baltimore community who were in tune to what 2 of their own had accomplished, and it felt really awesome to be a part of that community and to be, you know, in Camden Yards, rooting for the O's to make the wild card so that we can go to a couple more games here locally. You know, it was really cool to be a part of this community, and I've moved around a lot my entire life. You know, I'm originally from Florida, kind of, and I was in the Navy, and I was stationed here and there, or wherever. For the first time in my life, I really do feel like a part of a community, and being here in Baltimore is really unique. It's awesome, and it was really so cool to represent that community out on the field yesterday, and Rio, to be honest, as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting because in the Paralympics and the Olympics, Lynn and I had fun smiling about this in the mornings. If we were a country,
Marylanders killed it.
Yeah, we did.
Oh my gosh.
Well, so I haven't heard, I don't know if you guys heard a tally. If you combine Olympics and Paralympics from Maryland, where does that rank us? Because I'm sure it's pretty good.
We've got to look it up.
Jess Long, Tatiana
man, it's up
McFadden,
there.
Becca Myers, Mackenzie Cohen, Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, Helen.
Yep.
You know, we're in the.
there's 4 or 5 we're
not even
missing a
naming.
few.
Yep, Lizzie Smith, my roommate, won 2 medals as well. So like, there's a lot
We've
out
got
there.
to tally that up.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I know for a fact, seemed to
Get
me
that sports science guy on that.
Can you imagine?
Sports science on Maryland. What is it in the water?
Yeah, what is it? That's what all the headlines
We
said.
don't
What is
wanna
in the
know.
water?
But you know, I think in the Olympics that we would have been the 2nd country in medals, and I think in the Paralympics we'd have been the 2nd country in medals.
Wow.
Something like that.
I mean, think about that, and then if you combine them both, it's Maryland, and then there's the rest of the world.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why we put that flag on everything.
Exactly, and I'm incredibly prideful to be a part of this community.
Nice.
Fire in My Eyes. Folks, this would be a great read for you. That is some great ink you got.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
On your left shoulder, that's wild.
So it's a sailor tradition to, we travel the world, right? And we get the opportunity to go do some crazy things. I've had the opportunity to jump out of an aircraft to 14,000 feet. I've been able to dive down below the ocean 100 feet or so. I've blown a lot of things up. I've shot a lot of things. I've got to do some really neat stuff. And sailors like to tell our stories in tattoos. And unfortunately, along with all the cool stuff, came some difficult stuff. I lost a teammate in Iraq in 2009, a best friend. I lost an ex-girlfriend to suicide in 2010. I lost my father when I was in Afghanistan. And all of those kind of difficult situations kind of created the person that I am now. And it wasn't always gold medals and podiums and anthems. You know, there were some really difficult times. And I think Fire in My Eyes tells that story, and hopefully it's told in a way that you can relate to. You know, you can put yourself in these situations. I've kind of dove into the thoughts that I had a lot in coping with those losses. And then the great denouement of the whole thing is to be able to stand on the podium with a gold medal, and it kind of represents this idea that, you know, we are resilient beings, and with the right mindset, we really can accomplish a lot. And each of those experiences of immense value. You know, while the loss of a loved one is incredibly painful, it's also incredibly valuable because it teaches us what love means and like how important our family members are. And that's what made winning in London so special, was to not only win, but to share that with my family and share that in juxtaposing that with the difficulty of the previous years. So again, I'm very prideful of what I've been able to accomplish, and then more so, I recognize the value in those experiences, and I've wanted to share that with as many people as possible. And often, so often, you know, everything, I only have so much time, and so for the last 4 years at least, I've been vowing to write that book, and it's so cool to have a box of them next to my bed now to say like, cool. It's a legit
you
thing.
did it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, listen, our time has run short. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us. Thanks for being you. Thanks for repping us all so well.
It's my pleasure. It's my biggest honor is to be able to represent the community of Maryland, the community of Baltimore, and the community of the U.S.
Out of sight. Hey, listen, everybody, thanks for stopping by. There's a book, Fire in My Eyes. Thanks for stopping by, CBSBaltimore.com.
Thank you all.